once again, I got a meeting today at 1 o'clock that I'm going to be in. So there's some things going. Everybody's asking for things, but.
Well, listen, if you can get something just above the airport, right next to Findlay,
Yeah.
that would be great. So we could have a little easier access to snacks and whatnot. But
yeah.
I'm sure Maverick would be pissed because, it's a forever train of Findlay employees running to Maverick to get things. So, we're talking about kind of rumors on the internet and whatnot. It was actually kind of what caught my attention is you made a pretty long post explaining who you were.
Okay.
And you don't have to explain anything you don't want to explain, but it seemed like you were, here we go. And you already told me it just ate at you. You didn't have to do that, but you kind of gave your resume, who you are, veteran, Christian, city council member, car guy, which I'm sure is probably the biggest blemish on your resume, right? But it kind of caught my eye, and I thought, what is really this coming about? And maybe tell me a little about why you felt compelled to put that out there.
Well, it's kind of deeper than that. Basically, what it is, it's there's a lady that's a nice lady that tries to help the homeless and tries to do things for homeless people, but she kind of, to me, is kind of like Don Quixote. She's fighting windmills that aren't there,
right?
And that's kind of what happened there. She's a nice lady. I've talked with this lady.
Good intentions, I
good
assume,
intentions.
trying to help the homeless.
Good intentions, but she got twisted up with some people that put stuff in her head that's not actually true. And what I did is, because I didn't grow up here like you and some of the other guys, and I'm new here, that I felt like I had to defend myself, because if you question my integrity, you might say I'm an asshole, you might say what I am,
right. Yeah, sure.
But don't question my integrity. To be a man, your yes means yes and your no means no. And when I say yes, I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I say no, no. It's not a maybe thing. It's not a sort of, or nobody's looking at me. It's integrity. As a sergeant in the Army, you lead by example. If I can't ask you to do something, if I can't do it, I'm not going to ask you to do it. And that's kind of how I live my life. And it's back into my Christianity. I was away from God for a long time, and the last 2 years, Jesus Christ has changed my life 180 degrees. A lot of people down on Hancock know me from the bars. My goal in life was, when I retired, to just go to a bar and sit there and drink until I got to be 300 pounds and do whatever I wanted to do, right? Life didn't work out that way. When I retired from the car business, I fell into this city council thing, and I have more free time, so I'm doing more things like that. When I was out knocking on doors getting signatures for my city council run, I met this lady. Her name is Tammy LaFond. Nice lady, had a store inside the Bazaar on 95, which is at the end, like where Avalar's Mexican restaurant was at the end of 95. She had a store in there, and a lot of homeless people running around, as everybody knows, in that area of town.
Right.
And they would matriculate over to her store, and she would let them trade clothes out, like take her dirty, and she'd clean up the old clothes and put them out, let people have them. So she's doing a lot of stuff with homeless. I'm involved with Praise Chapel. That's where I go to church at, and I took over the men's discipleship program about a year ago, because God was bugging me to take it over since.
He didn't want you in the bars.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I don't go to bars anymore, but I'm sorry, the people at Hardyville and everybody else, I'm not down there anymore, Poorhouse and stuff. But this all goes together. The guys from the men's home, when they were not working at the food bank, hang around at Liquor Castle and go around, and they were telling the lady lies, and she got all fired up against Praise Chapel, and I walk in to get a signature, and that's how we met, and I sat down and talked with her one-on-one. We actually helped her out with a refrigerator to keep the drinks cold for the people, and that was from Pastor Stephen at Praise Chapel. We had an extra refrigerator back there that we gave her, and we did it, and I was trying to smooth stuff over. But I haven't talked to her in a few months, and then she got on this tangent that when I asked for a $25,000 donation to the Bullhead Regional Food Bank, the food bank is right behind the chapel. They're two different entities, but they're on the same property. And I'm backing up here. Every year, the food bank gives away turkey dinners at Thanksgiving, and they try to do the same thing for Christmas. When we had the signups this year, we had 600 turkey dinners. Within the first 2 hours, we had 600 people sign up, and we still had another day of people to sign up. So we didn't have enough turkey dinners for the people. So I went to the city. I got the city council to put an amendment together, and we kicked in another $25,000. So we actually had enough turkeys to cover Christmas and Thanksgiving. And that thing there, she took that $25,000 as me, because I'm on the Praise Chapel board, which I'm not. I'm just a volunteer down there. That I was getting money for the church, and we were funneling it somehow into my pockets, which is not the case at all.
Sure.
Which is not the case at all. I got 40 guys. I started out with 45 men in that discipleship program, which is basically a homeless place for guys on the street. I'm dealing with guys right out of jail. I'm dealing with drug addicts. I'm dealing with people that are kind of broken.
Is that in the same vein as what Pastor Cates was doing
Pastor
years
Cates
ago?
started it years ago, and he's in his 80s right now. And Pastor Stephen, who's the assistant pastor, is now running the food bank full-time and doing assistant pastor. So I took that over from him to kind of be down there every day and be like a sergeant for all these homeless guys.
So many years ago, we went down and donated just time to hand out meals. And it was a fairly small operation. I say we, Findlay, general manager, thought it was a good idea for us to get out, you know, which it was. And so we've been doing it for years, off and on, when we can, when we have the staff, when the timing's right, depending on what's going on in the dealership. And we went down this year, and cars were lined up as we got there, before they started handing out food, as far as we could see towards the river. And we were there for hours, and they had a great group of people. I think we were in the way as much as we helped.
That's okay.
You know, there's like too many people, you know, it was one of those deals. Like everybody wanted to help, and there was just, you know, there's only one hand to hand, you know.
Yep, I got you.
And it's a pretty staggering program. The amount of need out there for people, it was unbelievable. And so first, I would like to say kudos to you guys for doing all that. It was unbelievable. It always opens our eyes, and you know, we are very appreciative that people like you guys are out there doing it. And two, I can imagine how frustrating that is to. It seems like two people trying to do good things in the same vein and having friction. You know,
Yeah.
I can imagine how frustrating that is. So
I like the lady. I don't have an ill will toward her. She showed up at last city council meeting. I was expecting her to make a scene. She didn't. She was cool. It's just a misunderstanding, and she's playing it all out on Facebook like it's a conspiracy, but it's not. The other thing I wanted to talk about, the food bank is open 5 days a week down there. Actually, 4 days. They have Tuesdays, they bring stuff in. The food bank there's nobody paid down there. Everybody that works at the food bank is either volunteers, mostly from our church at Praise Chapel, and then the guys from the men's home to pay for the room and board, they volunteer at the food bank. When I was first starting to go to church again, and I was just a regular knucklehead out drinking, running around chasing girls and everything else. When I met Pastor Stephen, and I was in the city council, I was trying to get people to sign up my list. I had maybe 2 signatures on it, and I didn't even know what a city council guy did, so I started going to the council meetings before the election so I could get an idea. He sat down and started talking to me, and this is the weirdest thing ever, and I'm not a Jesus guy really, but I heard inside my body, follow him. And I get emotional thinking about it. And it was God talking to me. And I started going to the church the next day, and it just blew my mind. I stopped drinking. I was not in good health. I got heart disease. I'm a diabetic. I weighed 240 pounds. I stopped drinking, started getting serious about my medicine and doing stuff like that. I'm down 185 pounds right now. That's through the grace of God.
good for you.
Congratulations.
The other thing with that is I started volunteering. I was trying to work off my bad lifestyle. I'm on my 4th wife, all right? I got kids, I got things. I try to keep everything under control. But how God has changed my life, and it's not like the sky opened up or anything like that happened. It just happened from inside. And instead of being an asshole to homeless people, I started changing my mind and saying, well, let's go down and see what you could do to help somebody. So I started busting my ass at the food bank. And I didn't go to work. I'd go to the food bank. And I was pulling carts and doing everything. My arms, because I'm diabetic, anytime, they're kind of cleaned up right now, but I was getting bruises up and down my arms. My wife's going, what are you doing? You know, going down there. And a good day at the food bank 2 years ago was when we got 100 people fed in one day, 100 families. So we were filling up 70-pound carts and dragging them out to people's cars in 120-degree heat all day. And now the need, after 4 years of Biden and the way that the economy is going, and it's starting to turn around right now, they're feeding a ridiculous amount of people down there. We are feeding 300 to 400 families a day. A day. You go down there at any time when the food bank is open, there's people lined up. There's also a bunch of racks behind the church. The racks behind the church have donated clothing back there. As fast as that gets filled up while people are waiting to go through the food thing, they're picking out, and they're not crappy clothes. They're stuff people cleaning out their closets and throwing back there. So this thing is, you know, God gives you a little seed and then it grows, and we're feeding a ridiculous amount of people. They did 390 some odd people 2 days ago, and I'm going like, that, you don't know how many times you got to pull a cart for 390, 60-pound carts, 390 times back and forth that area down there. It's just incredible the amount of people we're feeding and the amount of lives that are being touched. We got a lot of great churches here. That's one of the greatest things about Bullhead. The amount of churches that we have and people helping, it's amazing. And the amount of people out here, the best thing about Bullhead, day one, forget everything, it's the people in Bullhead. I was down there partying with the guys on Hancock Road. I got drunk and fell out of the poorhouse a couple of times. All right, I've met all kind of people, and the people all pull together here, and the people will help out.
We have a very, very uniquely close community, and especially where we don't have a lot of, you know, big industry to pick up a lot of those needs and things like that, and the community comes together, whether it be through the community groups, donations. You know, I'm sure that you know, with your time at Anderson, they give back a lot. We give back a lot.
Yeah.
And that's not normal in a lot of places.
Nope.
You know, especially where a lot of places they maybe do it in the large corporate scale of things, you know, where a lot of things go directly to the people that need it. And it is a unique part of this community.
The Anderson was doing it a lot back in the day. You guys picked up the slack because they're not doing as much anymore. Findlay and Anderson are getting a lot back to the community. The guys at both stores, your car guys don't always get a bad rap. They're really nice people. All the places, nobody's out there to be a crook to you, because both organizations, they do the best they can with what you got, trying to make deals for people.
We're a collection of very chatty fellas who found a place to apply our skills.
Absolutely, absolutely. Matter of fact, when I got hired at Anderson, I was working with your dad.
Oh, yeah.
Me and your dad were like sitting next to each other at desks and stuff. He's a good
Yeah,
guy.
my dad spent a lot of time in the car business,
Yep.
and it was good to him. And then, which is, you know, I talked about how the leap in technology was just, I don't want to say overwhelming, it's probably frustrating to him, you know. And it's very much where I'm at with a lot of things now with the AI and all the other stuff. And I'm thinking, what is all this nonsense? You know, like you said, we're people, we're going to talk to each other, we're going to make a deal, we can shake hands, you know, it's not that complicated. Now you got, you know, listen, you got 8,000 things confusing everybody, all to pay the same price. And it's such a weird time in the car business. But when it really comes down to most people, it comes down to relationships.
Yep.
You know, having a good relationship, treating people right, and it's how everything in life ends up boiling down.
Like I said, it goes back to your yes means yes and your no means no. You do the right thing all the time, you can't go wrong. You know, and I'm not, once again, I'm not a guy that's going to quote scripture at you because I just started reading the Bible. But the two things I try to do is when Jesus, the last week he was alive, he had a conversation with the Pharisees and they were trying to trip him up about what's the greatest commandment. And basically Jesus said, you only got to live your life with two things. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. I try to do that second part. I do both parts, but I try to do that second part as much as possible. So, yeah, I am. I'm the vice commander now of the VFW. I'm really involved with West Care because of my guys in the homeless. I'm involved with the probation department now since a lot of my guys are in trouble with the law. So now the people at probation knows me. I got veteran court today because I'm a mentor at the Veterans Court. So veterans in town that got in trouble with the law, they assign you a mentor, and I have 4 guys in that. I got dragged into drug court now, so we got a really good judge in drug court and a lot of good people between Southwest, West Care, places like that. I'm going to have to miss the homeless task force today because I can't go there because I have a meeting at 1 o'clock. They bounce off each other. So like today's one of these things where I'm coming.
You're really retired poorly, you know.
Yeah,
that?
I am. I do more now than I did ever before. My wife never sees me, which is probably good for her because I'm not around to get in her hair. But
so you have a couple things that you mentioned, and I don't know what your time. If you have to run at some point,
you
let me know.
I can talk as long as you need me to.
Well, I tell you, I'd like to ask you a couple things.
Yeah.
One, you talked about like hearing God's message, right? When you told your pastor that, what did he say?
He expected it. Well, he didn't know. When we sat down, me and Pastor Steve, he's 41 years old. He's like my son. But when we met, we just clicked. And then I had a car guy. He wasn't going to sign my thing. And I go, come on, man. Yeah, I put the pen in his hand. I made him sign my papers because I'm a car guy. But then I heard that thing said, follow him. And I'm going, usually on Wednesday nights, I was going to go head to the bar. I was going to hit the VFW or AMVETS or something like that. And then that night I left my house and I drove down to the church. And I ride my bicycle past Praise Chapel, and it's probably the ugliest church you're ever going to go. I love it.
Not the big, beautiful steeples, not the cathedral.
No, when you go in there, the ceiling tiles are falling off. This building here is a lot better than our church, but it's not the building that makes the church, it's the people. Yeah. So when I walked in and I got up to the front door, and he saw me, he goes, you really came. I said, I told you I would. He gave me a big hug, and just like there, it's just... it's amazing. It's the first time I actually felt the Holy Ghost. Your hair raises up, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand it. I was still drinking and partying and doing things I shouldn't have been doing, and it slowly just turned me around. And then I decided that can't live like this no more. I got to do something better if I want to get to heaven. So I started applying. What I used to do partying, I now do trying to help people. And it's rewarding. At the end of the day, you might have a 5-car day, and that's great, and it's good for me, but I've actually taken 8 guys out of the men's home and got them back with their families, and I got 2 of the guys up on their feet with jobs, living on their own. Out of homeless to living, and one of them's, both of them are employed at Anderson, one in the sales department and one down at the power sports store.
That's great.
So that's just 2 of the guys I'm helping. But it just gives somebody, sometimes all people need is just a pat on the back and somebody to sit down and listen to them. Don't worry that the guy smells because you could always clean him up. He's got crappy clothes. I can get him nice clothes. Sit down and talk to me and let's talk about God. And one thing at the men's home, we read Proverbs every day. We start the day off, we read a chapter of Proverbs. And they're not hard. It's like 20 or 30 little 2-line deals. And it's just common sense. Yeah. It's just full of common sense. If you hang around with dummies, you will be a dummy. If you hang around with 5 dummies, you're going to be the 6th dummy.
That's right.
And it's stuff like that. It's 100%. In the Bible. And you put it in basic. I don't read the King James Version because it's too like Shakespeare to me. but there's the New Internet NIV Bible. I didn't even know that there were different Bibles.
A lot of
I
different
had
versions.
not a deep, NIV just kind of puts it in English for me. And reading that stuff, I'll be up there reading to the guys, and I hear that, and I go, remember when you did this to him yesterday? This is what that's talking about. And you look at him, the light comes on. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know? Because people don't realize they're bad or they're good, because people are all caught up in their own bullshit.
Yeah.
People are all caught up in their own bullshit. But when you start it's another Army trait. Lead by example and selfless service, and that's what Jesus was about, giving to everybody else. I'm making this a big religious thing, and I'm not that kind of guy, but I can't keep this in any longer. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to say this.
There's a very, very fascinating phenomenon where, you know, America was getting much less religious over the last 30, 40 years.
Absolutely.
And it's spiking back the other direction. It's a really, really interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing how you came to that is actually, it's beautiful, man. Like, I don't know what the cool way to say that is, but it's beautiful. It's fantastic.
And it's right there. Anybody could do this. I'm a guy that barely graduated high school. I survived 20 years in the military. I lived in so many different countries, and it's as a 64-year-old guy getting ready to be 65. Life gives you little setbacks, but you could overcome them, and you don't even realize that God's carrying you along sometime. I got in a military car wreck when I was 19 years old, and I absolutely should have been killed, and I was expecting to die because of the way that the vehicle flipped over on me, and I got laid on the street. It was like God put his hand out and just laid me on the street, and I was laying there hearing the crash of everything going around me, and when I opened my eyes, this is at Camp Roberts, California, probably in 1980, and I'm opened my eyes and I saw the sun. I honestly thought I was dead. And I go, I should be hurt right now. I was waiting for this thing to hit me, and I was laying in the middle of the street, and I looked to my left and right, and there was helmets and there was rifles and crap all over the street, and I go, I didn't have a scratch. I had not a scratch.
Helmets and helmets.
I had to go back in and pull people out of the wreckage and stuff, but I was like, I should be dead. I was literally should have been dead. And then there was a lot of things in life that you don't even realize. So I got in a bar fight with 5 guys because my mouth overlapped. And I got beat up pretty good, but I didn't get killed. You know, there's stupid things. You played football. You're an athlete. I did that at a lesser level. Things that just happened. I had a job as a kid. I was a trap house boy on a skeet range. And I came out of the trap house, and a guy fired a shotgun at me, not knowing that I was my head coming out, not a clay target. He wasn't paying attention. And I stood up, and I heard the bullets, the shot go over my head, and I got hit in the head with a plastic wad. That's how close that was to blowing my freaking head off.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's so many little stupid things like that God saves you through, and you're wondering what their purpose is. You don't really know. I thought I was going to be like...
And one day it hit you.
Yeah, I was going to be drinking on the beach in Parker, just put my toes in the sand. And now I don't even drink anymore. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about a couple things that you had just mentioned, and I just wanted to kind of, you know, you mentioned, it's so fun to talk to car guys because we speak a language that the normal folks don't get, but I understand completely when you say, all right, cool, you had a 5-car day. That's good for you, but it's not very fulfilling.
Nope.
You know, it's very bizarre, and even especially under Chris Bancroft's leadership, you know, we make it about so much more than just selling the car. It's really about, you know, personal growth and other things. But you know where I found a lot of that fulfillment that I didn't know I needed when I was going through some tough times was coaching football.
Yeah.
And I realized, wow, it was so much more fulfilling when someone said, thanks, coach, for something than it was to, you know, and I made good money in car business. I'm very appreciative. And it was a different type of fulfillment. And I haven't been coaching football for about what is it, like a year and a half now? Almost 2 years. And there is a void. I'm missing it. I'm missing it, you know. There's
opportunities out there if you, and sometimes, like I said, I was the guy when I'd be driving my car and stopped at a stop sign. I lived in Texas. I've lived in California. And you'd stop and there'd be a guy, homeless vet, begging for money. And that used to piss me off because I'm saying, I'm a veteran. Why don't you get up and work, dummy? You know how to do this. But I would never talk to those guys. And now that I'm interacting with these dudes on a daily basis and feeling that out, if you want to do something, volunteer. Figure out a place, Boys and Girls Club, Little Leagues out here.
There's a lot of need.
There's a lot of need. There's a lot of people out there. Just sitting down and talking to somebody one-on-one. This stupid post that this lady made that I felt
compelled to
respond to that and write down some of the stuff I did. And one of the guys goes, hey, you must walk on water, all this stuff that you did. And that kind of hit me, and I said, well, if I could walk on water like Jesus, that would be awesome. But I'm never going to get there. But thank you for saying that. But it's not about tooting up your own horn. It's about how many people that you could pull along with you.
Yeah.
It's how many, like when you're coaching football, those kids will always remember you as coach. They will always. I was coaching Little League during my time in Louisiana in the Army. So I was jumping out of airplanes and doing stuff, and then I was missing my kids because I was divorced at the time. So I started coaching a Little League baseball team on post, and they had Pony League, and it's a traveling league in Louisiana. So I was worried, so they had two teams. So they gave me the second team, and the second team they cherry-picked all the good kids on one team because I didn't know any of them. So I'm a guy here, and I had a kid that had cerebral palsy. He was in braces. I had, you name it, it was like the Bad News Bears. We didn't win a game all season, but we competed. And when we would have to travel, because I had a racially mixed of kids, I had black kids, Asian kids, Puerto Rican kids, everybody, and we're traveling around to the Great White South, to these little things. So I got my paratrooper guys in my platoon. I got some of the biggest guys that you ever saw of all different races and nationalities, and they would be my base coaches.
Yeah.
And we would pull into town, and these people were looking at us coming out the military team. I walk right up to the coach and say, we're a terrible baseball team. We'll try real hard. You're not going to beat us, but I ain't putting up with no racial crap. Right? And everybody treated us like gold. Well, of course, I had enormous guys with me, but the kids had it. The kid that had his leg braces on, he's now 40 years old, and he's a high school wrestling coach. That kid still calls me coach to this day. It's been over 20-something years, and I let the kid start at catcher, and he couldn't run, but he'd hit, and magically the kid would overthrow first base, stuff like that. But there was, it's just stuff like that. That guy, he find him on Facebook, and he still calls me coach.
So the thing that I always try to tell people is if you never get out and volunteer, you'll never experience those moments.
No.
If you never get out of your own personal stuff, which is important to you, you'll never experience, you never meet those people. I mean, I was not ready to quit coaching, right? I was told not to coach anymore. And the thing that was the hardest was all those kids that had put faith in you, and now now you're not there.
Yeah.
And all these kids that you just, I started with my son's age group of kids, and through that you meet another group and another group and another group, and you get attached to all of them.
Yep.
And,
absolutely.
I always coached from a similar perspective, and people would always say like, I said, no, I'm telling you those things because those are the things I did wrong. That is where I'm coming from when I tell you how to do something. It was never about sports. I'm not telling you how to catch a football or swing a bat. I'm telling you how to make decisions because I made a lot of bad ones,
Absolutely.
And that was always kind of, the similar vein for me. The thing that you've talked about a lot that is a very complicated issue is the homeless issue.
Yeah.
And you are a living example of both sides of that coin. What are we doing here, right? Yeah. Take my example, do it the way I did it. I this, me, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have, and then you even have another layer to it where there's different approaches to. And I'd like to get your, I'm not going to ask you to solve the homeless problem. I don't think anyone's done it yet.
No.
But I'd like to get a little bit more of your perspective about not your approach to it, but where the the conflict about how to help homeless people comes from. There's a lot of different schools of thought. There's a lot of different people. That's probably the biggest issue is you have one homeless guy who really needs that thing. You got one homeless guy who needs real mental help. I mean, tell me a little bit about what you've experienced.
That's a work in progress. Being that you've been a coach and being a sergeant in the Army is just like being a coach, except bullets fly. What I try to do is when I get an individual, whether it be a soldier or a person, I don't care what you did before I met you, because you start at ground zero with me. Your yes means yes, and you're going to hear me say this. Your yes means yes, and your no means no. So when you tell me yes, you're going to be here, or I'm going to come and find you. All right? So dealing with the homeless, there are guys that like being homeless, and no matter what you do or show them, they just don't want to do it. And a lot of those guys were institutionalized in prison. For example, we have different groups of homeless out here. There's homeless down in Old Bullhead. They're there for a reason, because they can go to the casino, and there is places they could stay in Old Bullhead, up in the hills behind the fire department, run down to the park and sleep under a cabana during the day, stay up all night. A lot more drugs in that part. It's a tendency to be more drugs. There is a group of homeless people that hang around Catholic Charities, because that's where they're always tied to that point. There are more homeless people out in Fort Mojave area, like if you drive the back way to go to the range, go to the range. There's people living in broke down trailers out in the middle of the desert.
Out there. I was shy. I hadn't been out shooting in a long time.
Yeah,
and when I went out,
I go
was
out
eye-opening.
weekly. I go out there weekly. I'll catch people in the summertime walking on that dirt road down there. I stop and go, "Where are you going?" "I need to get water." "Well, where are you going?" "Down to Walmart." "You're going to walk out." Get in the truck. I take them down and get them water, bring them back. Right? Yeah. Everybody's got a different reason. And drug addiction is the big thing. The meth is a killer out here. It's not really heroin, because the guys ain't got the money for that, or they don't got the resources. It's meth. Meth seems to be everywhere. And either you're on meth or you're off meth. And there's people that are struggling every day with that. I'm not a drug counselor, because I've never been addicted to drugs, although I drank alcohol for 50 years. I'm not an alcoholic. But and then you wake up throwing up in the morning. But no, I'm just saying, I kind of get that. But it's, and once again, it goes back to, if you trust God and you start believing in yourself. And some of these guys that I actually got out of the thing that were drug addicts, guy with a gun in his mouth, trying to commit suicide, and you sit them down, and if you could get them to listen, just to talk to them as a human being. Now, some guys are mentally gone. You can talk to them while they're out in La La Land. They need mental help. We probably need to have a mental hospital here again at some point, but once again, all this thing gets into money and big business. You try to do the best you can with what you got, so at the end of time, when you got to stand up there in front of Jesus and say, "Atone for what you did," I tried. I did everything I could. And a lot of people can't get over that. They don't understand. Why do you keep doing this every day? He's going to disappoint you. I know he's going to disappoint me, but I got to keep giving him a shot. Yeah. I'm not trusting him with money. I'd have him work, and I'd give him $20 for doing a job, and 2 minutes later, they're completely gone. They found drugs. It's that easy. So some guys you can't give money to, but I could give them a meal, and I could get them clothes and get them a pair of shoes or something. And you gotta love yourself a little bit, and a lot of these people don't love themselves. Yeah. So there's not a magical answer. I mean, you could take yourself out of poverty, you could take yourself out of that. And one of the things I was talking about with my pastor this year was, it's a new year, but nothing's going to change in the new year unless you change. If you don't change your attitude and what I guess they call it repenting. And repenting is when you're going this way, and all of a sudden you have an epiphany, and you go, "Oh, wait a minute, I should actually go that way." And until you have that come to Jesus moment, and you go, "Wait a minute, this ain't working out that way. I'll go that way." People tell me, I got guys in the men's home from Washington State. I got a guy in there from Connecticut, where I grew up, and I'm going, You went from Connecticut out to Arizona. How did that happen? Well, I thought I would be better in Oklahoma. Well, you're in Arizona. Well, it didn't work out better in Oklahoma. So I went to Arizona. And what are you doing now? Well, now I'm homeless. And I'm like, just because you change your location, if you don't change your habits, you're not going to change.
Yep.
You're not going to change. Nothing different's going to happen. If you live in Bullhead and you think it sucks and you don't do anything to change it, it's not going to change. I look at this as a great place to live. I'm going to die here. I will die in this town. I don't plan on going unless God moves me again. But when I was a kid, I thought I was going to live in Florida. I visit Florida. I got a family in Florida, but I lived everywhere. I've lived any stupid place you can imagine. I lived in Idaho. I lived in Alaska. I lived in Louisiana in the swamps where the mosquitoes are as big as that. You know, I've lived a lot of crazy. I lived in Korea, and in order to use the bathroom was a hole in the ground, and you were in a barn with a cow, and there was a hole in the ground, and they had a rope that you had to grab on the back of the door handle and kind of lean like you're getting ready to repel, and you had to take poops in a hole like that and not fall in the hole. And don't be bringing your phone in there. That's going on. Well, we didn't have phones then, but you know,
makes it tough to read a magazine too. So.
I was in a bar in the Philippines, and the Philippines is weird because they'll build houses that there's metal about this high, and then it's cage, and then there's a roof so you get a breeze. But that's how the bathroom is. So you're in there taking a leak, and people are walking by, and you're talking to them, and and when it rains, rats are running up the outside of the building.
Wow.
It's crazy. I've been a lot of crazy places, but it's all about where you make it. So life is about what you make it, what you decide to do. So if you're doing something the same every day and you expect it to change, it ain't.
It's very true, and I think a lot of people are realizing that. There's a lot of very interesting. I think a little bit of it is where you're at in life. I'm 43. I got a 19-year-old son, a 13-year-old daughter, and seeing the way they feel about things, whether it be social media, whatever the cultural thing of the day is, and but it really, there's a little bit of a where I think social media ruled people for a long time, and there's a lot of pushback to that now, and people are realizing that you can't be living, your mind can't be where you're not actually. You need to be right in here, or nothing else is going to be right. And I think that's probably a little bit of that, people coming back to church, people coming back to religion.
Yeah, the church at Praise Chapel, once again, the ugliest church in the city. But if you go to that church, you will feel the presence of Jesus in there, because we have a misfit, what my wife calls it, misfit church. I dragged her to church. She was like me. She was in the bars, hanging out, doing everything. And I got her to come back to church. And I'm blessed that I have a wife that puts up with my crap. At one time in my life, you're 43. My son is as old as you, my oldest son. At one time in my life with my third wife, my son was older than my wife. My grandson was older than my daughter. And when I walked my daughter to kindergarten, and I was 45 at that time, when I walked my daughter to kindergarten, and I was taking her to kindergarten as a 45-year-old, and the little kid tugged on my shoulder, tugged on my pant leg, and I go, "Hi." She goes, are you Casey's daddy? That's my daughter's name's Casey. And I looked at the little girl. Yes, I am. She goes, how come you look like a grandpa? I come here, kid.
Yeah.
But I used to go on their
Who
field
asked
trip.
you anyway?
No, they're all it's all cool. But it's life throws you a curve. You don't expect you're doing this and you can do that. And your kids are now 19 and 20, you said?
19 and 13.
Yeah. Your greatest thing is when your kids do better than you did.
Yeah.
Like my son, he took what I did and took it to the next level.
Yeah.
Like I got kicked off the JV football team because I was a knucklehead, and my kid was all city in football. I went in the Army. I was a paratrooper. I'd served 20 years, never fired a shot in anger. I was on the DMZ in Korea for 2 years. Nothing ever happened. I retired. My son decided to join the Army, be a paratrooper. A year later, he's in Iraq. The worst year of my life, the first time that Iraq was going on. And my kid was, they promoted him to sergeant the night they crossed the line into Iraq from Saudi Arabia and everything. So that was a tough year. My kid did a year in combat. He was a door kicker. Had to kill people at 19 years old. Coincidentally, I came across a veteran here in Veterans Court, another 19-year-old from this town here, joined the Marine Corps, 3 combat tours in Iraq, and the war messed him up. Served his country. A guy tried to murder him in his sleep, a fellow Marine, got cut in the neck. They had to put him out of the Marine Corps, so he's 100% disabled, retired Marine, got in trouble with the law because coming out here and not having a family support system and trying to decompress. So 2 guys the same age, one's my kid, one's like a son to me, that I had to go through a lot of stuff with this guy. And currently he's got a job, working, not in trouble with the law, going through the
That's
Veterans
amazing.
Court, things like that. But you just, like, once again, we were talking about volunteering. If you got free time and you're a retired guy, everybody could do something to help somebody out. They're out there. There's people walking down the street. There's a guy named Millage. He's a black gentleman. He's probably like 40, and I see him walking every day.
Is it the tall, thin guy?
Yep, and he's always walking with a plastic bag, and he's hauling butt, right?
Yeah.
And I made it a point to stop and put my truck in front, get in the truck, and I will do. Nope, he's a God-fearing man. Nope, God wants me to walk. He's walking from his house to his mother's house, and he's bringing her stuff from the grocery store every day.
Wow.
So I see him all the time.
I've seen him for years.
Yeah, for years he's been out there, and he's a great guy. If you ever get a chance to talk to him, he's awesome. I finally got him. It was pouring rain the other day. I dragged him into the truck and gave him a ride to his mom's house. But every day, he'll, nope, I'm good. You know, I feel bad. He walks every day. There's a million people. There's another lady that walks in my neighborhood, the Safeway, every morning. She's a Jamaican lady named Gloria. And I finally, like when it's really hot or windy, I make her get in the car so I can give her a ride. Something simple like that, just helping somebody out, it'll make your life feel better.
So
and these
down at the
people are
used car
everywhere.
center, early in the morning, we'll see people walking almost daily to get from wherever to wherever, and we don't know their situation, but they're walking every morning. You know, sometimes with a cart, sometimes not, and you know, we know it's 40-mile-an-hour wind sometimes. It's cold and nasty. It's raining. And you know, you just kind of see these folks, and they just become, you know, terribly just like a fixture. You just
Yep, it's just scenery. You know, and the one thing you got to listen to that inner voice. That inner voice is Jesus. That's the Holy. I should pick that guy up. Oh man, he's going the wrong way, and you go by. And it's those little instances in your life that's where you missed an opportunity to do something for somebody. And before, because you get caught up, I have to get to work, I can't pick that guy up. Well, really, you're going to spend 15 minutes in Starbucks trying to get a coffee, and you couldn't have flipped around, done a U-E, and give them a ride, even if they said no, you know? It's those little things that people, you get caught up in all the noise of Facebook and all this other crap that you miss those little moments of humanity that
You know,
can
what
change
you're
somebody's
describing is the world I grew up in when I was a kid.
life. Absolutely.
And I grew up in small rural Pennsylvania, and I remember many a times you just pull over and just help people or do it. And I was a kid, so I'm through my grandparents, my dad, my whomever.
What part of Pennsylvania?
I was born in Sharon, Pennsylvania. It's about an hour north of Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So my son is going to college 15 minutes from where I grew up.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Just
very cool.
Wildest,
Yep.
you know, wildest scenario ever.
1974, I went to the Boy Scout Jamboree in Moraine State Park. That's not far from where
No,
I went to Pennsylvania. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I'm from Connecticut. We grew up a couple hundred miles apart.
Yep. And you know, that western Pennsylvania, it's funny because I've been back there a lot with my son in school. I think I went and saw him 5-6 times this year. And although it is modern, they still have a little bit of that old school neighborly existence back there, and there's something very like warming about it. It's a very, very different vibe, and I don't know if it's because we have such a collection of people here from different places or what the reason being is, but every time I go back there, And I just go, wow, this is how I remember home.
Funny you said that because that's what I feel about Bullhead.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at Bullhead on the map, like the river comes down and there's a big bulge right there. I call that the bubble because it looks like a beer belly, right? And
It's accurate.
the bubble would be like Hancock Road all the way to the river, and from Rotary Park all the way up to Holiday Shores area. That's where I live. I live in the heart of that, and you got a little bit of everything. You got some $1 million homes next to a trailer that's worth
Yeah.
$100 grand. And all different kind of people. And daily, I'm riding well, not daily now, I'm old, but I'm riding my bike around that neighborhood. And I can literally say I've been on every street in this city. There's not a street in this city I haven't either ridden my bike down or drove my truck down. And I feel that here.
Yeah.
Living in California prior to me living out here, because I thought California was the place I want to be,
Yeah.
but not really.
Just the weather, that's all you wanted.
Yeah. Well, the parks here, our kids play in our parks.
Yeah.
The BMW, the BMX track, the skate park, kids play in the park here. You go to California, you got beautiful parks. Nobody's in them except the homeless, and people helping each other. I'll ride my bicycle and probably if I pass, everybody says hello. And they don't do that in California.
Yeah.
Like, who are you? What are you talking to me? What do you want? And I didn't know my neighbors in California. I knew 2 of them because we were close. But here I know the whole street.
Yeah.
I literally know who that guy belongs at that house. And we're still a small town. And we got rich people that live up on the Parkway. And we got basically a bunch of middle-class people here which are just trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And if you don't be so bitter about Toby's doing this and it's the little good old boys and yada yada. Well, I'm now part of the city council. There is no good old boys in the city council.
Yeah.
I give Toby shit every council meeting.
Listen, I really like Toby. I try to give him shit every time I see him.
Yeah.
Toby, why am I paying all these taxes? Toby, why am I doing this? He's like, Shane.
I keep telling him I'm gonna name name the airport after him. I'm gonna name something just to piss people off. I told him I wanted the golf course to be the Toby Cotter Memorial Golf Course.
That'd be great.
That would just piss everybody off.
Yeah.
All the and a lot of the people that bitch at city council, like Scotty, and there's a good guy named Harvey Pryor, and some of the other people, Sean, and those are people that get up and complain a lot. The new city council, I can honestly say all the new people that got elected to the city council, we got a pretty good city council.
Yeah.
We got 5 out of the 6 of them volunteer regularly at some kind of a charity. You don't know about that, but they're behind the scenes doing stuff.
Good folks.
And I'll be donating something somewhere, and they're there, and stuff like that. But I make friends with Scotty. I've been to Scotty's house. I've been to talk to these people.
So the interesting about a lot of those folks is, I don't want to be insulting to anyone. They come off as an annoyance to people, but they're a very necessary part of things. They have to, they're really good at opening discussion, saying things people don't want to say. And you may not like to hear it sometimes, but sometimes, not all of it, you need to hear.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of the way about a lot of things. And I will tell you, and we'll wrap this up. Like I said, I would do this all day if I could.
Yep.
But you had said on there that, hey, I'm easy to talk to. I'll talk to anybody.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, a lot of people say that, and a lot of people don't come down and talk to us. So I'm very grateful, first of all. And really, what I wanted to do was give people a chance to get to know you.
Thank you.
I didn't have any sneaky agenda for either side of anything. Mm-hmm. It was, man, look at this guy, who he is, what he's about. Man, let's give this guy an opportunity to tell people who he is. And I think you've done a great job of that.
I appreciate that.
I really enjoyed talking with you. I'm very appreciative of especially this day and age, you're seeing the impact that mayors and city councils can have on cities in a bad way. And I'm very grateful that you guys are out there making the best decision you can for us, the people of this community. So, Gene, it was an absolute pleasure.
Thank
and
you.
I will invite you back anytime, whether it be to talk, and you can bring someone with you if you ever would like to talk about the homeless situation, your church, city council, whatever that would be. We really enjoy having the platform for people to come in and talk about places where they really don't have a chance to do it normally.
I will hit you up with that. I got a couple things. There's there's something big happening in the city, and once I'm allowed to say that, I'll come back and break
be
it
great.
here.
That'd be
I got
absolutely
some
great.
good things like that. And there's a lot of good people in this city. It doesn't matter your status. There's a lot of good people. Honestly, if people really knew car people, that we're not the big bad guys that people think. We're just regular dudes trying to make a living, trying to do it as honestly as we can.
Yeah.
Mr. Bancroft's a great guy. The guys, the Anderson family is good people. I owe them a lot. There's a lot of kids that went back and forth. One of your top dogs, Sid
Yeah.
Casillas, he's like a kid to me. His dad's my buddy at the bike shop.
Yeah.
We're both in the chat and they said hi.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's you don't even know. Sid's dad's donated over 15 bicycles last year to me to get these guys transportation, so they don't have to rely on buses and stuff. He's
great.
an unsung hero. Him and Eddie that work down there at the thing, they've done a lot of great stuff.
And there's so many people like that. And I will say this, though. There are a handful of people who do a lot of the heavy lifting in the volunteer world, whether it be, at the food bank, at Kiwanis, at wherever it is. It's a lot of the same people. But when people come in and do what they can when they can, it helps them a lot to do their thing a lot more. So I've been out there enough to know, what all everybody does. And like I said, I'm very grateful you took some time to come down and talk with us.
I enjoyed
Listen, I could probably just talk about your life for an hour, but I'm glad we got out all the things we do, man. I'm very grateful to have you. So appreciate you very much, sir.
you.
It was a
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, guys.
Chevrolet GMC. Dependable Chevrolets, powerful GMCs, advanced technology, comfort, capability, friendly team, stress-free visits, certified service and quality you can trust. Visit us today.